Welcome to Liesl's Artistic Studio. I'm excited for you to join me today because we are about to try something a little different, painting a unique and exotic bouquet of flowers using a harmonious green color palette. But before we get into the fun of painting this cohesive color scheme next week, let's go over how to draw the outline for it today. And don't worry, we'll go over this outline step by step in the simplest way possible so you can easily follow along. But if you are a person that does not enjoy drawing or doesn't have the time to draw this but still wants to paint it with me next week, I will have an outline available on my Etsy shop. A link for that, as well as any of the supplies you see me using today, will be listed in the description of this video. Okay, enough talk, let's get started. So first off, we need some paper to draw the outline on. Now, if you are skilled and confident in your drawing abilities, you can just draw this right onto your watercolor paper and you are set to paint next week. But if you're like me and you erase a lot while you draw, I do recommend drawing this on some sketch paper or even just printer paper, and then when you have it exactly how you like, or if you choose to use my Etsy template, you can simply trace it onto your watercolor paper later using a light table or even just a well-lit window. Now, I actually already have this very lightly drawn in pencil, but because pencil can be hard to see sometimes in these videos, I will go over this with you again using a thin Sharpie marker. We'll start this first flower sort of here in the middle top area of the page, and we'll begin by drawing some round circular shapes for the stamen or the very center of the flower. Then we'll start adding in some petals that surround those circles, starting with a small one right here at the bottom, then a larger one over the top that basically surrounds all those little circles. Let's go back to the bottom now and add another larger petal here, and then we'll start adding 2 or maybe 3 more petals to each side of this flower to fill in the gaps and really finish the flower off. While you follow along with me as we draw these last few petals, I have a favor I'd like to ask of you. So a bit of backstory first. I have recently received an offer by the Craftimo brush company to help create a co-branded Liesl's Artistic Studio limited edition brush set, which I would personally be able to tailor everything from brush types, sizes, handles, ferrule, brush color, printing and packaging to specifically tailor these brushes for me and you as watercolor artists. This could be an incredible opportunity, but before I jump into it, I'd like to hear from you as my audience, as well as my friends, to see what your interest would be in potentially purchasing a Liesl's brush set. You can let me know in the comment section here in this video, or you can go to my community tab page where I have a poll going that you can click on and vote with your opinion. I'd really appreciate your input and thoughts. Okay, back to drawing. Now let's add 2 smaller flowers underneath this first larger one. I'll again start with some small circle shapes for the flower centers and then start adding in some of the petals surrounding that. This time though, I'm going to keep the flowers a little more simple, more front facing with maybe just 5 or 6 very simple petals that surround the center. If you're finding this tutorial helpful so far, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notifications if you haven't already, so you'll be able to watch my new and upcoming weekly tutorials. I think I'll add another small flower here at the top right-hand corner, right next to this large flower. This time I'll draw it at more of an angle or a side view, but I'll again start with the circles in the center, with 2 petals off to the side here. And then when I get to this third petal, let's make it look a little more folded over by bringing this line around, over, and back up to the center. Then we'll finish the flower off by adding a couple more slightly curved petals. And lastly, to finish off the flower portion of this drawing, we are going to add a flower bud at the very top of the page. This will be sort of egg-shaped with some side leaves that surround the outer edges of the bud itself. Well done! I think that I can say that the hardest part of this drawing is now over, and all that's left to do is add in the greenery. So let's start by adding in some leaf shapes of various sizes that stem out from underneath these flowers. Now here I've got 2 small leaves and one a little bit larger one that underlap the flowers here. And then let's add a couple of longer, thinner leaves off to the left side of this larger flower, and maybe even a smaller one too. Really, you need to just do whatever you think complements and adds to your drawing, and it's okay if it's different than mine too. Now, actually, before we get going too crazy on the leaves here, let's add in the stems of the flowers really quickly. You can have some of the stems connect to each other, or you can keep them separate and draw them down to the bottom of the page. I'll probably do a little bit of each. Now that I know where my stems are, I can start filling in some of these spaces in between the stems with some leaves that actually sprout from the stem area. All right, let's continue adding some leaves to the empty spaces of the page. This time, I think I'll draw some smaller leaves that are sort of connected to each other with a center branch. These are looking pretty good so far. Let's just add a few more near the bottom of the page. And lastly, for an optional finishing touch to our drawing, I'm going to add in a few small groups of little clovers. Now, I've chosen to do clovers because they fit well with my all green painting, and it's March, which is St. Patrick's Day month, so I'm still kind of in the mood for St. Patrick's Day. But you can do something different here, like small little flowers, some dots or circles, more leaves, or you could just leave this step out altogether. The choice is up to you. Now that I've mentioned the idea of adding some circles or dots, I actually think I will add a few of those to my page just for fun. And here is your lovely flower composition all ready and set for painting next week. Make sure you tune in Thursday when I show you how to turn this outline drawing into a stunning and color cohesive masterpiece. Thanks for watching today. If you enjoyed this tutorial and don't want to miss out on next week's painting tutorial, please make sure you subscribe so I can continue to help you discover your artistic side.